back, Gothamites. If you're new here, hi. I'm London, aka History of the Batman. 2019 marks the 45th anniversary of the debut of the Asylum for the Criminally Insane in Gotham City, Arkham. So for this video, we will highlight some must-read comic books that highlight Arkham Asylum and why it has become such a staple within Batman's 80-year mythology. But before we jump into this madhouse, why don't you subscribe to this channel and become a part of this wonderful Gothamite community. Now, to give you a little bit of backstory on Arkham Asylum, before its Bronze Age debut in DC Comics, it was somewhat of a real place, minus the Joker and the Breakouts and all of that good stuff. The infamous DC Sanatorium was inspired by the real-life Danvers State Insane Asylum in Danvers, Massachusetts, which was constructed by Nathaniel J. Bradley in 1878. A fun fact is that Danvers inspired sci-fi creator H.P. Lovecraft. And even in some of his stories, such as The Thing on the Doorstep, the setting would be this asylum in Arkham, Massachusetts. Even the inside of the real-life Arkham inspired his fictional horror world. From the underground tunnels to the rooms for shock therapy. Since Danvers' real-life asylum wasn't the best place to be and just had one too many straitjackets, it was actually shut down in the 1960s. Well, a little over a decade later, Dennis O'Neil and Irv Novick decided to house the criminally insane within the DC universe in a place similar to the real Danvers Asylum and the fictional world of H.P. Lovecraft. The reader is introduced to Arkham Hospital, which is written as a New England institution called a hospital, a polite name for an asylum which houses the criminally insane. At least they're honest. Another fun fact is that in this introduction to the Arkham Hospital, in the story The Threat of the Two-Headed Coin, the first inmates you ever see in Arkham are both Two-Face and the Joker, which, if you think about it, is so fitting. So you should definitely read O'Neill's Batman 256 because not only is it the debut of Arkham Hospital, but it is a really good Two-Face and Joker story, and who doesn't love those crazy guys? Arkham Hospital became Arkham Asylum in 1980, courtesy of Len Wein and Irv Novick. In the story This Way Lies Madness, which was originally published in Batman issue 326. Wein actually comes back to Arkham Asylum, and in DC's Who's Who in the DC Universe issue 1, he gives Arkham its origin and background in 1985. Arkham Asylum, which is established within the northern part of Gotham City, was founded by Amadeus Arkham in 1921. So the sane criminals that are housed in prisons such as Blackgate wouldn't be housed next to the criminally insane, and that they can actually seek help to cure their illnesses. However, things turned really dark for Amadeus because after the stock market crash in 1929, Amadeus lost all of his fortune, so he decided the best response for this is to kill his stockbroker. And if everyone did that anytime they were getting into money trouble, the world would just be shot. Gohan's barking again. I'm sorry. But as a result of attempted murder, Amadeus was put on trial and was found not guilty due to insanity and was put in his own Arkham Asylum until the day he died. This Who's Who also gives us more information about Arkham Asylum from other inmates who call this place home, such as the Mad Hatter and Maxie Zeus. So basically, if you are a fan of fictional worlds and you decide to implement that into your criminal agenda, you're going to Arkham. So for Mad Hatter, he loves Alice in Wonderland. For Maxie Zeus, he's into Greek mythology. For Two-Face, he's into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And Joker is just straight up crazy. So don't like fiction. Well, in the late 1980s, Arkham has become a commonplace for Batman to do drop-offs during his nightly routine of fighting crime in Gotham City. Arkham has also been envisioned in other stories, such as Frank Miller and Klaus Jansson's Batman The Dark Knight Returns from 1986, where Arkham is now called the Arkham Home for the Emotionally Troubled. That sounds like so nice, and literally way more people than probably are in there should be there for the emotionally troubled. Like, I But that's the point, right? It's supposed to sound much nicer and more helpful than Arkham Asylum. It just has a better connotation to it, I suppose. And not just that, but it's visually a contrast from the dark and gothic Arkham that you've seen over the last now over a decade or so. But it's painted with a light palette in bright hues, which all adds to their attempt to change the way you approach mental health and how to better it. So that's nice, but don't worry, the gothic horror show that is Arkham returns in a huge way in 1989. This graphic novel by Grant Morrison and Dave McKean, which actually is turning 30 years old this year, so happy anniversary to that too, is the graphic novel A Serious House on Serious Earth, which mixes its pre-crisis origin of Arkham, the real-life Danvers Institute in layout, and Morrison's troubling take on this insane asylum. So the basic plot, kind of like the video game Batman Arkham Asylum, is that Commissioner Gordon calls Batman and tells him that the Joker has taken over Arkham and has doctors as hostages, and it is up to Batman to not only tunnel his way throughout Arkham, but to save the hostages and ultimately stop the Joker. While coming across notable rogues throughout this crazy journey, Batman learns through discovered diaries the horrific history of Amadeus Arkham, and that he had tons of family tragedy and troubles. Not only was his wife and child raped and murdered by a madman, but also his mother, Elizabeth, was seemingly attacked by a large bat. Of course it's a bat. And so to end her suffering, Amadeus slits her throat and vows to find and kill this evil bat that has drove his mother to madness. Going back to the present time, one of the doctors, Dr. Cavendish, who was supposed to be a hostage, is in on the whole kill the evil bat bit and tries to lure Batman into finding her so she can kill him herself because he is believed to be the giant evil bat. Makes sense. No, it doesn't. So Batman tries to stop Cavendish, who is actually attempting to kill the other doctors in the asylum, and then after he stops her, he is able to escape Arkham Asylum. Now, if you want a good Arkham Asylum book, this is the book that you need to read. I will even link it in the description below so you can go get that. You not only receive this modern and terrifying update to the origin of Arkham Asylum, but thanks to McKean's surreal and almost psychedelic art and Morrison's psychosis with villains such as Two-Face, Mad Hatter, and Maxie Zeus, see, love fictional worlds, end up in Arkham. All whose obsessions have become psychotic and even more troubling than usual. You get a very dark and gothic interpretation of Arkham Asylum and can see the madness that seeps through every padded cell and the architecture itself. And this mold ultimately transfers over into the late 80s, the 90s to 2000s across comics and TV and film. This vibe definitely set the tone for the modern interpretation of Arkham Asylum. Now, there's always the running joke about Arkham that the locks are literally never locked and it just has a failed security system because everyone is just able to break out and go back and do craziness in Arkham. But if you do want to read a couple of stories where the system has actually failed Arkham Asylum, and there are several breakouts, I have a very condensed list for you. In the anniversary issue of Batman 400, Ra's al Ghul actually breaks out inmates such as Poison Ivy and the Joker to make havoc. Perhaps the most prevalent breakout comes in 1993, part of the huge epic arc Batman Nightfall, where the villain Bane actually blows up a wall in Arkham Asylum and breaks out every single inmate in the joint, which makes Batman have to return these villains one by one. And of course, if you know Nightfall, this was all part of Bane's plan to systematically, mentally, and physically break Batman down, which totally succeeded because every time he brought back a villain, Batman would become more and more tired and just losing a will to live. And then ultimately in Batman issue 497, Bane breaks into Wayne Manor and literally breaks the bat by breaking Bruce Wayne's spine. Arkham Asylum also took a huge hit during the late 1990s Ark's Cataclysm, which is where a 7.6 earthquake wrecks Gotham City, and in the aftermath of 1999's Batman No Man's Land. If you want to know more about No Man's Land, I did a 1-minute Bat history on it, so I will link that video in the description below if you want to run down on why that is an essential Bat read. But notably, in No Man's Land issue 1, Jeremiah Arkham, who is the modern head of Arkham Asylum, decides to let all the inmates free after the earthquake. You know, to make things easier on him, but harder on literally everyone else. But speaking of Jeremiah Arkham, if you want to read a story that is focused on him and seeing his viewpoint of what Arkham Asylum truly is, I would suggest you read Dan Slott's 2003 limited series, Living Hell, where the point of view is through Jeremiah and many of the administrators within Arkham Asylum. Living Hell, that is actually the perfect description of Arkham Asylum, so bravo! The other side of the story is following Walter White. Although his crimes involve fraud, intentionally pleads insanity so he can go to Arkham instead of regular prison, because in his mind he thinks that would be better. I don't know why he thought that. And of course, because he thought that, while he's in Arkham, he starts to see actual demons in his cell and throughout the institution. And Walter White actually becomes the villain Great White Shark, and him and the demon Etrigan both team up to actually fight the demons in Arkham. So not only is Arkham filled with mad people, but there's actual demons in it. So basically, this is Disneyland for Joker. I'm sure he's just like, this is lit. Love it. But our last main comic book story, of course, I'm highlighting more things that are in pre-New 52. I'm not saying there aren't any good Arkham Asylum books for New 52. If you do want a video that's about that, I can totally do that for you. Our last highlighted story within this video is Ed Brubaker's 2005 graphic novel, Batman the Man Who Laughs. Another fun fact is that The Man Who Laughs refers to not only Victor Hugo's 1869 novel, but also the 1929 silent film inspired by Hugo's book that starred Conrad Veidt, who from that film was one of the visual inspirations for the creation of the Joker in 1940. That's a good old Bat tidbit for you if you didn't know. Anyway, Brubaker's story, inspired by many before it, which isn't a bad thing, is a modern retelling of Batman and Joker's first meeting in Batman issue 1 from spring of 1940. Meaning this is a look at a very young caped crusader. Joker announces on TV that several men of power will die at midnight, at 10 p.m., at different times at night, and it is up to Commissioner Gordon and Batman to try to stop these killings before the Joker gets his hands on these men. Unfortunately, some of these men didn't make it, just like in the original 1940 story. But it all becomes very dramatic when one of the men on Joker's hit list is Bruce Wayne, and Batman's like, oh no. And Bruce is actually hit with Joker gas, which makes him hallucinate horrible things like his parents' death. But is that really shocking? I mean, I bet you Bruce thinks about his parents' death on his best day. No drugs involved. But Bruce snaps out of it thanks to Alfred Pennyworth, all of our dads. And Batman and Gordon learn that Joker ultimately wants to contaminate the Gotham City water supply, which is a very common thing that villains want to do in Gotham. I don't know. We see that with literally all kinds of villains. Ultimately, the Dark Knight and the Clown Prince of Crime duke it out, and Batman is victorious and sends Joker to a newly opened Arkham Asylum. So this story can fall into an origin or beginning of Arkham Asylum of sorts. But aside from comics, you can see Arkham Asylum in all kinds of media. You can see it in film. You can see it on TV. And of course, if you have played the very, very popular franchise Batman Arkham, literally Arkham Asylum is the center of this franchise. But whether it is a brand new institution like Arkham Hospital, or it is one that is riddled with a terrifying and gory history, Arkham Asylum will remain a huge part of Batman's mythos now and another 45 years into the future. Thanks so much for watching this list of must-read Arkham Asylum comics. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a bat thumbs up. As always, all of my social media is linked in the description below, so why don't you give it a follow and become a Gothamite, including Instagram at History of the Batman. Check out my comic book reviews for Comicosity, and of course, please subscribe to this channel so you can become a part of this Batman community. It would mean so much to me. Thank you so much for watching, and we will have more History of the Batman soon right here on YouTube. Remember, Gothamites, it's all about peace, love, and Batman. Bye.